What do you get when you cross a World War I battlefield sidecar with a motorcycle, sprinkle in British optimism, and then completely forget to add something as basic as a reverse gear? You get one of the strangest three-wheelers the world has ever seen. Ladies and gentlemen and curious car lovers everywhere, welcome back to Car Ghor. Today, we're digging up a quirky triangular ghost from motoring history, the 1921 Scott Sociable. This oddball is so rare that only 6 are known to survive today. That's right, 6. Fewer than the number of times your neighbor Bob tells the same fishing story at the yearly barbecue. But unlike Bob's fishtail, this machine is the real deal. The Sociable wasn't just a car, it was a social experiment on wheels. It looked like a car, handled like a bicycle trying to ice skate, and had the personality of that one eccentric uncle who insists on showing up to family weddings in a kilt. It was bold, it was bizarre, and it was, let's be honest, brilliantly impractical. But before we roll ourselves into this triangular tango of tubular steel, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button like you're yanking a cold starting lever on a frosty January morning. Smash the like button like you're trying to wake up a sleepy carburetor, and ring that bell, because here at Car Ghor, we don't just talk about cars, we dig up the forgotten, the weird, and the absolutely wonderful. All right, let's meet the Sociable. It came from the mind of Alfred Angus Scott, the genius behind Scott motorcycles. This was a man who believed motorcycles should scream like angry hornets on a summer's day. His bikes were fast, light, and ahead of their time. During World War I, Scott even turned his motorcycles into sidecar-mounted machine gun carriers. Because, let's face it, nothing says Monday commute quite like bringing a water-cooled Vickers gun to the office. After the war, Scott looked around and thought, why not turn this battlefield brilliance into a peacetime family runabout? And so, the Sociable was born. A war machine reinvented as a glorified picnic basket on 3 wheels. Now, here's the fun part. Production didn't actually begin until 1921. Why? Because Britain was busy fighting a world war, rebuilding afterward, and drowning in enough red tape to wallpaper Buckingham Palace. By the time the Sociable rolled out, the Roaring Twenties were in full swing. People were wearing flapper dresses, dancing to jazz, and driving sleek four-wheelers. And then here comes Scott's Sociable, crawling into the decade like a confused toddler on roller skates. No reverse gear, no proper balance, and definitely no chance of becoming the next Ford Model T. So, what exactly was it? The Scott Sociable was built on a triangulated tubular steel frame. Think of a pyramid laid on its side. It had 2 wheels in line. The front wheel was offset to one side, almost like a motorcycle and sidecar combo, supported by this frame. Only the rear offside wheel was driven by a shaft from the 578 cubic centimeter water-cooled 2-stroke twin-cylinder engine borrowed from Scott's motorcycles, producing about 5 to 8 horsepower. That's about the same power as a determined lawnmower today. But back then, it was just enough to propel the Sociable to a top speed of about 45 kilometers per hour, around 28 miles per hour. If the wind was on your side and you hadn't had a heavy breakfast. Power was sent through a 3-speed constant mesh gearbox with no reverse gear. Overshoot your parking spot. Congratulations, you're about to perfect the Flintstone Shuffle. Suspension was provided by coil springs front and rear, offering a surprisingly comfortable ride for the era. Braking, however, was complicated and potentially dangerous. The 2 rear wheels, the driven wheel and the balance wheel, each had separate brakes. The handbrake worked the driven rear wheel, and the foot brake acted on the balance wheel up front. The front wheel, offset and balancing, had no brake at all, so stopping required nerves of steel, courage, and perhaps a prayer or two. The body was built from fiberboard and wood panels, more furniture than automobile. Inside, a full-width bench seat squeezed 2 adults shoulder to shoulder, upholstered in black material so plain it made nuns' habits look flashy. The controls were quirky, a throttle pedal sticking out of the right side, a gear lever jammed next to the driver, and pedals marked C and B for clutch and brake. If you couldn't read, well, good luck. Starting the Sociable was like waking up your grumpy friend Timmy after a long night at the pub. Open the fuel tap, flood the carburetor, and then yank the lever until the thing coughed to life in a cloud of smoke. Congratulations, you're now mobile. But driving it? Oh boy, you didn't steer a Sociable, you negotiated with it. Every corner was a gamble, every bump a test of faith. With the offset front wheel, turning felt less like motoring and more like auditioning for the circus. Fast bends were not advised unless you enjoyed hedges up close. Now let's talk money. When it launched in 1921, the Sociable cost £273 sterling, a hefty price tag. By 1924, sales were so abysmal the price dropped to £135. Not because it got cheaper to build, but because dealers couldn't give them away. By the time production ended, only somewhere between 50 and 200 units had ever been built. And today, just 6 remain. At an H&H Classics auction in April 2022, one sold for £26,450 sterling, over $35,000. Other examples hover closer to £20,000. But when there are only 6 left on Earth, the price is like Timmy's fishing stories, always climbing. So what do we say about the Scott Sociable? It wasn't fast, it wasn't practical, and it certainly wasn't a success, but it was charming, it was inventive, and it was totally nuts. And honestly, we need that. In a world of beige SUVs and cookie-cutter crossovers, the Sociable is a reminder that cars used to be wild experiments. Sometimes they worked, sometimes they flopped, but they were never boring. So tell me, would you take a Sociable for a Sunday spin, or would you walk instead? Drop your thoughts down below, and before you roll away faster than a Sociable trying to corner on cobblestones, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Car Ghor and hit that bell icon, because here we keep the strangest stories of motoring alive, one forgotten wheel at a time.